Welcome back, everyone, to the weekly Armchair Kickoff podcast. And this evening, I am joined by a very special guest. I am joined by Irish and Leicester City centre back Darragh O Connor. Darragh, how are you this evening?
Oh, sure, not too bad, Keane, and yourself?
I'm not too bad, no, not too bad at all. Thanks very much for coming on this evening, joining us here. And
No
so,
problem at all.
for our viewers, Darragh is back from the Republic of Ireland, from Wexford, and he's currently playing with Leicester City, Premier League club in England at the moment. So Darragh has been kind enough to come on and join us to talk to us about his football career and kind of how the road has led him to Leicester City. And so Darragh, I understand early on in your career, you played your trade with Waterford FC, and also you also played with Shamrock Rovers as well before you kind of went to Wexford yourself. Kind of talk to us about, I suppose, your early days kind of playing football and kind of how you where you've led in the kind of the Irish team.
Yeah, so obviously I'm from Wexford, so I was playing locally there with Clebon, which is my local side. And then when I was 17, then I went down to Waterford under 19s. Paul Cashin and David Breen were the managers there. I played the full season there with Waterford, and I done all right in it. Which was a positive thing. And then I got snapped up then by Shamrock Rovers. They got in contact with me, and then I signed with them then the following year. I was unfortunate enough then to get an injury. I got basically knocked out in a training game the week before we kicked off the season, and I didn't play many games there, unfortunately. But then I moved back to Wexford then. I was an electrician at the time, and I was down in the ETB down in Waterford doing phase two. And I wanted to play League of Ireland men's football, and Wexford came to me, approached me, and I was happy to sign. And David Breen then was the assistant manager, so I had a relationship built up with the lads there already before I went in there, and I played 20 games then for the lads in Wexford, and then somehow then I managed to get a move over to Leicester here.
And like in terms, like obviously you're playing with your local club, and then you're playing with Wexford FC as well. Like in terms of that, like how do you find kind of the standard kind of coming from normal junior football and youth football, let's say at amateur level, to kind of making that transition to kind of Waterford to a Shamrock Rovers and kind of Wexford FC themselves? Like how do you find making that transition?
Um, it was the transition. It was okay for me. So like I never really put myself under too much pressure. I just went
Yeah.
out and I just loved playing football in that sense that like it's just a pitch at the end of the day. You can complicate everything and formation wise and stuff like that. But I just brought it back to the basics, and at the end of the day, it's 11 men versus 11 men with one object, trying kicking it into a goal. I found it easy enough. But the physicality side of it for going into men's football, going to Wexford, I struggled at the start. Um, that's why I didn't start the first few games for Wexford. I was on the bench, I was out of the squad and stuff like that. But as soon as I got to like the physicality, I was okay with it. Um, but yeah, it was just taking it one step at a time. Like you can't look too forward. You just have to take it one step at a time, and I did that. I went down to Waterford, as I said, and then obviously the lads made me a technical player. Kind of, I'm not really a technical player, but they made me better on the ball and stuff like that. And just went from there, really.
And like if you know, like when you moved then from Wexford then to Leicester, like that's a massive move. Like Leicester, former Premier League champions, doing in the last couple of years, and they're flying in the Premier League at the moment. And you moved in 2019, which 2019-20 season, which that stage Leicester were flying last season, and you know they have a lot of top players there. How did that feel like when you got the call, like when Leicester approached, like how did that feel at that point in time?
Well, I got the call coming down a Friday on the motorway. I nearly crashed the car when I got the call. But yeah, it was just surreal, like getting the call saying, "Look at Darry, you're going over there next week for a trial match and stuff like that." Because when I was younger, I never went over to England. You hear so many lads saying, "I went over to England when I was younger for trials and stuff like that," whereas I never went over. Um, so then when I went over then on the trial, it was just surreal. Like I was sitting in the canteen and all first team lads were there and stuff like that, and the manager Brendan Rodgers, like it's you're talking about prestige players and stuff like that, and then obviously the opportunity came around then to sign, and I couldn't really turn it down, you know.
Yeah, like I'd say, like at that time, like you said, you're driving on the motorway, you get the call, like Premiership club come in, one like the best teams in England, and they come in and they want to sign you. Like I'd say that was surreal. I'd say that moment there, like coming from like your local team to playing into your county and then going then to play for a Premiership club in a short space of time, like
Yeah, in a
there was
short
a lot
space of
going there.
time. Yeah, within the space of 8 months, I was playing Division One football in Wexford, and then I was training week in week out then with the Premier League players pretty much within the space of 8 months. So it was a quick turnaround. There was an awful lot of highs and lows throughout that time. Obviously high signing with Wexford, lows then of not playing at the start of the season, then highs then of getting over to Leicester and going on trial, and then there was another low before I actually signed. I was meant to sign on deadline day, which was I think it was the 8th of August,
Yeah,
and lo and behold, there was a problem with one of the first team lads signing the same day, so my deal got pushed back. So I was after doing my medical, after signing everything like that, and we got news then. I think it was like 4:30 or something. It was like the deal won't be done. You're gonna have to go home. So obviously I was gutted then at the time, but the lads at the agency, they said it to me that look, it's going to happen one way or the other, whether you go out to the sister club in Belgium or whether you go in January and sign for him, and stuff like that. But it was just like there were so many highs and so many lows in football that within the space of the 8 months, it was just a roller coaster of a ride. But thankfully, everything got sorted in the end, and I went on to bigger and better things, you know.
absolutely. And I've seen some of the goal you scored the other day, and the header, a brilliant goal. And I was watching videos of your goal line clearances as well, which actually it's actually going to bring me on to my next question. Like obviously you're a defender yourself, and like I play defense as well in football myself. For you,
Hmm.
being a defender growing up playing football, who were kind of like early inspirations for yourself, like in terms of defenders?
Well, funny enough, when I was playing with Clabon underage, I was a centre mid.
Yeah,
Um, and then I was playing with the county team underage, under 11s, under 12s, and I was a striker from. But I was playing centre half then for Clabon, and obviously I support United, so I used to look at Rooney, Ronaldo, Tevez. I never really looked at Rio Ferdinand or Vidic or whatever. But as time went on, I started looking at defenders, and I used to look back at old clips then of the two lads, and obviously John Terry as well. Just the mainstay centre halves
yeah,
in Premier League, and picked up little things, how to work my feet and where to cover across lads and stuff like that. And I kind of went from there. Like I always wanted to be a striker, wanted to be the next Wayne Rooney and stuff like that, but
yeah.
obviously didn't turn out that way. And now I'm aspiring to be the next Nemanja Vidic. Like so,
Yeah, like so, like when you're younger, you're playing up front, and you're like looking at like Rooney, Ronaldo, Tevez, and you're thinking they're the players I want to be. Now it's
yeah,
like I've become in full circle now, and it's just like you're
pretty
half
much.
there.
Yeah,
You're
and
looking
now
like to emulate. Yeah,
I actually want to stop the likes of Rooney and Ronaldo scoring. So yeah, it's
I've
a bit of
become
a
in full
strange one,
circle.
alright.
Yeah, absolutely. And like in terms, like obviously you've moved to England now, and you're living there quite a while now. In terms since you moved to Leicester, like how have you adapted to kind of new life in England compared to Ireland?
Yeah, it's definitely been hard. Like I'm a home bird. Um, it was made a lot easier because mum moved over with me. And dad and my brother already were living in London. So London's only an hour and a half away, which isn't too far. But yeah, there's definitely been moments where I've wanted to pack up and just go home.
Yeah,
Because I'm just not enjoying the football, or it's just in the environment. But obviously, I get stern talking to every night and be like, you have a great opportunity to stay here and stuff like that. So I suck it up for the week that I'm in a bad mood, and then
yeah.
I look back then the week later and I'm just like, what was I thinking? Why would I even dream of going home? Like I'm doing my dream here. I'm fulfilling my dream as a footballer. So it'd be stupid of me to go home.
Yeah, and like, look, I suppose with anything, like, you're at a young age, if you move to a different country, or even if, like, if you're living in Ireland, let's say, and you move to a different place, you get a new job, like, there's always like an adjustment period, like, regardless of what kind of, frame of life it is. So like, I can absolutely attest to that. Though, like, I've done the same thing. I've moved from place to place, whether it's college or for work. Like, so in
Oh
terms of that,
yeah,
like,
100%. As I was saying to you earlier on, I was an electrician in Dublin
yeah,
before I moved over here, and I could not wait until Friday at 2 o'clock when we finished to get back on the motorway and come back down to Wexford. Just even to do nothing for the weekend. I was just because I was home.
there's no
I had all
place
the
like
pe
home.
No, there's no place like home. So that was my that was my thing that really affected me, was not being able to go home every weekend and stuff over here. But thankfully I had mum and the family here with me. So
Yeah, and that's in a way that's fantastic for you as well. The fact you had family move over to you, that transition, then moving from Ireland to England, that, like you said, it was hard, but it's obviously after been a more smooth transition that would have maybe happened for other players in the same situation as yourself.
yeah, 100%. Like I know a few lads that are at Leicester that are Irish, and their parents haven't been able to move across, or that one of the parents haven't been able to move, and they've said that they found it really hard and stuff like that. And like I've been talking to them throughout my time at Leicester, and they're kind of jealous that I'd have my family around me and stuff like that. So it's definitely a plus that to have the family there, and it's I couldn't imagine it moving here on my own in that sense. Like I say, I'd be gone home now at this stage if the family wasn't here with me.
Yeah, and look, and it's great that you have a support network there, because when you have that, you can concentrate then on the football as well, and other external things outside of football aren't playing in your mind as much when you're on the pitch.
Exactly, yeah. You have to live a positive lifestyle, especially on the pitch. You can't bring your off the field stuff onto the pitch, and vice versa. You can't bring your on the field issues off the pitch, because it just burdens you. And I've done that many times, and crossing over, and it just hasn't worked out for me, and it just affects my performance and affects me outside the football as well. So it's not great.
And like in terms like in football, in terms like you've played centre half, you've played up front, you've played kind of many different positions. In terms of toughest opponent, whether it be in League of Ireland or in England since you've moved, like who would be kind of your toughest opponent you've come up against?
League of Ireland, I'd say Kieran Kilduff. Played against him against Shelbourne, and the man's a mountain. You just can't move him if you're going for a header or whatnot. And
Yeah,
he was a great test. However old he is, I was only 19 coming up against him. Um, so he would have been probably the best player that I would have came up against, one on one, and in League of Ireland. But I'd say over here now would be Che Adams. He plays with Southampton.
yeah.
He played it. He played against us last year for the 23s when he wasn't getting in, and in the first team. And now look at him, he's banging in goals left, right, and centre for the first team now. So he was probably one of the main lads that I would have faced last year. That was like top quality.
Yeah, he's very good. What he does have, Che Adams, is a lot of pace. Like he likes getting in behind. He's one of them
Mm.
type of players. Like he's very nippy. Like, you know what I mean? He's one of them. Like.
Yeah, he's not a great fella to come up against, if I'm being honest. Yeah.
So one, then you're like, if he's on your shoulder, you're like, fuck, like, you know what I mean? You're
Yeah.
thinking in the back of your mind, you're like, am I gonna get turned now? Like you see that kind of way in the Premier League when he makes them runs. He's always kind of on the half turn. He's always trying to spin a defender.
Yeah, he's a defender's nightmare, poor Darragh. but
Yeah,
there's an awful lot of other strikers in the Premier League that are a lot worse than him.
yeah. Like even
So
look your own striker, Jamie Vardy. Like he is someone like you wouldn't want him run that like his pace and just like his power and everything about him. Like his aggressiveness. Like it's just he's one of the strikers in the Premier League. Do you know what I mean? He's getting better and better. But even with age, like every season, like he's banging in. He's always up there with the golden boot every season. He's one of them strikers. So like his story, just in general, how he got from Fleetwood to the Premier League is just remarkable. It's
it's
unbelievable.
mad. It's mad. And he's actually a lovely lad as well, like so it's strange what people say about him in the media and stuff like that, but he's like Jamie Vardy's a lovely lad in that sense.
Yeah, he's really really good player. In terms, obviously, look, we talked off camera actually about Manchester United because you are a Manchester United fan yourself. How would you
Yeah.
kind of assess in the last kind of 2 years Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's reign as manager and kind of what your thoughts on his reign and kind of how we're going at the moment?
Um I don't know, it's a difficult one. You look at the league table now and you see where they are and they're only was it 5 points off top or whatnot with obviously with the game in hand. Um which if you said that to any United fan at the start of the season, you'd be 2 points off top. I think any United fan would say, yeah, no problem. We don't care how we play and stuff like that. But I don't know. Its performances haven't been the greatest, um, but we're still getting results, which is a positive thing. But I don't know. There's a few lads I think in the dressing room for United that just don't want to play for him anymore, which is making his job and a lot difficult, a lot more difficult than what it is. And if I'm being honest, I don't know how long he'll last in the job because I think a lot of United fans are sick of him and the way that the team are performing. But that's just my opinion, you know.
Yeah, and like in terms of like obviously there on the weekend we had the Manchester Derby. Like there was one of the more dismal derbies that we've watched in recent years. Even though like look we didn't get beaten, but a lot of fans were kind of criticising Ollie for the decision kind of in the second half not to kind of make any changes in terms of the system or bring on maybe another attacking player. Did you watch a derby yourself over the weekend? How do you feel about the 0-0 draw at Old Trafford, considering we're on the back beat against Leipzig in the Champions League?
Um, I half watched the game. We were travelling back from Southampton. We had a game at 2 o'clock ourselves on Saturday, and it was on in the background in the telly. Um, so like I seen the highlights and stuff like that, and I heard obviously Roy Keane's and Micah Richards and Guy Neville's assessment of the game. Um, I can see where he's coming from not making substitutions, especially with how hectic the Christmas schedule is.
Yeah,
Um, he's trying to manage players and stuff like that. I seen a stat or something on that he's going to that United, I think, and City are two teams that have the least amount of break over the Christmas
yeah, they
period. Like,
average 2 days break on average
yeah,
between games between now and the end of December.
so that's kind of what I'm thinking he's doing is he's not risking players in that sense. So obviously you want to win a derby, but you don't want to lose a derby either.
Yeah,
So it's not really a bad result, especially against a team like City who can rip anybody apart. But obviously you want to win the derby, but it is what it is. It's football. The next day he might hopefully they'll go out and they'll smash who's Sheffield
Sheffield United on
United.
Thursday. Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully they'll go out and do the business then. But if they don't, they don't. Like,
And like in terms of like a player who is in for a lot of praise at the moment amongst Manchester United fans is Bruno Fernandes. What do you make of Bruno since he's come in? He seems to be a catalyst of success for United since he's come in.
yeah, Bruno. Like I didn't really know much about him before he joined United. In the sense, like I never watched him, didn't really know of him. But since he's come to United, like he's shown what playing for United means to somebody. He's a leader on the pitch. He demands the best out of everybody, and look, he's been magnificent with how he's performed and what he's done, the amount of goals, and it's just he scored. Yes, a lot of them are from penalties, but at the end of the day, someone needs to take penalties, and obviously United are getting a lot of them, and that's it. Like he's putting them away. He's consistent.
And like, there's something that I think United fans are making a kind of a comparisons between him and Paul Pogba because Bruno's consistently getting goals, getting assists. I think what United fans' frustrations are when people make them comparisons is that Bruno, even when let's say he drops a 6 or 7 out of 10 and he's not playing maybe to what his usual standard is would be an 8 or 9, there's still production there. And I think that's what where Man United fans would kind of have their frustration that Pogba doesn't have the production, even let's say if he's having an off day.
Yeah, well, like you can't give a 10 out of 10 performance
Yeah.
every day, and even for Leicester, the lad like the managers do be saying to me, it's like, look, if you're having a bad game, just even go back to the basics. When your headers pass the ball to the centre mid, and that's you done. Um, and I think with Pogba, I think he still thinks he's having a good game when maybe he's not having the greatest game, and he's trying tricks and trying diags that are not on. Whereas I think if he kept the ball and kept it simple and was able to get around the pitch in that sense, I don't think United fans would have any kind of issue with him. But as you see with Bruno, even if he is having a bad game, he's literally passing the ball, passing the ball, 5 yard
He's
pass, as
always trying to
simple as
get it
that.
forward.
And
Like,
yeah, he's always trying to get forward, but he never really puts the ball at risk. He makes sure that the passes with conviction and normally reaches the intended target, and that's really it. Whereas Pogba would maybe look for the big diag that had everybody be talking about if they got a goal off it in that sense.
and like just one final one on United in terms of like what you consider a successful season for Man United. Obviously, look, the title race at the moment, it looks like anyone can win the league this year in terms of anyone's in the top six at the moment. It's blown wide open. Chelsea have dropped points again tonight. United are 2 points behind them with 2 games in hand, and people are touting Chelsea as title challengers. Spurs and Liverpool are playing each other this week, and that seems to be everyone's touting Spurs for a title challenge as well. In terms of success for United this season, what would you consider a successful season?
Well, obviously, considering that they got knocked out of the Champions League, you'd like to consider them one of the favourites for the Europa League. But United being United, they'll probably get knocked out against Real Sociedad. But it has to finish with a title. It can't just be, the Carabao Cup or the FA Cup. They need the Europa League, and they need to get in to the finals of the two English competition, cup competitions, and have a good Premier League run. Maybe get into the top four again. But as Roy Keane does be saying, it's like United shouldn't be hoping to get into the top four. They should be there, but obviously they don't have the quality of players there anymore that they used to have. So I don't know. Like it's such a hard thing to say what's a successful season going to be for Ollie and United. Some people might say, oh, he has to win the Premier League to keep his job, and other people would have different opinions. But that's just my opinion, that they have to have a good run in the Premier League, two good
And
cup
win a cup as well.
runs,
Yeah.
and they have to win a cup. There's no point in saying, oh, maybe if they win a cup, they have to win a cup this year. Yeah,
Yeah, I think like Ollie's in the job now. He's in 2 years. He's in the job 2 years now. I know first part of the job was on interim basis, and fans will look at this and say like he needs to win something now this season and get a prolonged, like people are saying, get a prolonged run in the Champions League, get top four and maybe win an FA Cup or a Carabao Cup. But now since we're in the Europa League, I think we should win that competition. We have enough quality at the club to win the Europa League. But as you said, United being United, we probably get knocked out against Sociedad, who are a very good side. They're top of La Liga at the moment. They're a pretty good side. David Silva's playing some stuff from, so they've young Isak, former United player Adnan Januzaj is there as well. So like they've plenty of quality there at their club. So like that's by no stretch of the imagination is that going to be an easy game. But I think if we get through them, they're one of the favourites for Europa League, and obviously Spurs are in it. They'll be a tough side if we do get them, like as proved when we played them this season. But then Arsenal are in it as well. But look, they're useless, and I'm going to get into them. Like, you know what I mean? But
yeah,
like,
they're just an even a different level. But Can't really say too much either.
Yeah, you can't say too
But
much either without sparking a reaction. But yeah,
yeah,
but in terms of that, like, there's still a lot of good teams in that competition, and obviously, like, when the kind of later stages, the Carabao Cup, tough game against Everton, and then in the FA Cup as well, like, we got our home game in our first round game. So, like, look, there's still a lot of football to be played, and like I don't think, like, it's too outrageous to say that we could challenge for the title if we stay being consistent, because everyone's dropping points this season, and
yeah.
the points tally for a title this season is not going to be high 90s as it was in previous seasons. Do you know what I mean? I don't
No,
think in any stretch of the imagination. Like, you look, I think City and Liverpool set the benchmark in terms of, tally for a title winners, like 97 points, 98 points, 100 points. You've seen that tally, the kind of, I suppose, expectation they set, but they're dropping a lot of points this year. Chelsea are
mm,
dropping points. Even United themselves are dropping points. Spurs seem to be the only kind of team. I know they drew on the weekend. They seem to be kind of one of the most consistent teams. Jose seems to have them kind of taken over, but there seems to be a lot of teams. I'd say there's about 4 or 5 teams who can definitely, if they stay consistent, they can definitely challenge the league. I think come March we could still have, maybe we might still be talking about maybe 4 or 5 teams who have a chance. But then obviously all these other teams are going to have European commitments as well. And I think that's telling. I think we'll find out at that stage this season who's going to be right there amongst it when it comes to the running.
yeah. Like as you said, like there's 4 or 5 teams in the running. And, like you just have to look at the league table at the minute. Like you see Leicester doing well. You see Southampton doing well, but it's just whether they can keep up that momentum. Personally speaking, I think obviously the first team for Leicester will keep up the momentum, and they'll have a long Europa League run. So I say there's probably going to be 6 or 7 teams, yeah, within the running if all of them stay consistent, and especially the way the league is now, it's the bottom team can beat the top team, and nobody's really shocked anymore by it, um, because there's so many injuries, and it's just such a weird season, especially with COVID and stuff like that. That obviously
Yeah,
teams are getting hit with COVID and stuff like that. So yeah, it 100%. Especially in if you go to April, there'll be definitely still a lot of teams in with a shout of doing well this season and maybe even challenging for the title. Yeah.
yeah, and like for me, even just looking at it from a Leicester perspective, from obviously a neutral point of view, there's a lot of players who I really admire from Leicester. Like, one of the players who I remember Leicester signing last year for 40 million was Yuri Tielemans in the
Mm.
midfielder. Like, he's a really tidy footballer, so intelligent. So I love watching him play. I watched him play with Anderlecht before he was a Leicester player. He was someone who I admired from afar, and I was like, Jesus, if Man United signed him, I'd love him. Like, he's a good midfield player. He'd bring a lot to our team. Another player who I like from Leicester is the centre half Soyuncu. I think he's
Yeah.
a good player as well. When he came in and to replace Harry Maguire, and he's done so well. Like, do you know what I mean? Another player, obviously, who I mentioned earlier on the top of the show, Jamie Vardy. Again, like how he's done since he's come into the Premier League since 2015, 14-15 season, and to maintain them levels consistently now for 5-6 years, from coming from the level of Fleetwood to Leicester, just been unbelievable. Do you know what I mean? I think maintain that at a top Premier League level. He's in the conversation. One of the top strikers in the Premier League era. Like, do you know what I mean?
Oh
You
yeah,
talk about
hundred
English
percent. Yeah.
strikers like Harry Kane and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? He needs to be in that conversation. He won the Golden Boot last year. The year Leicester won the league in 2016. Like, himself and Riyad Mahrez had one of the best partnerships I've ever seen. Do you know what I mean? That knit of a team. They had N'Golo Kante, Mahrez, Vardy. Do you know what I mean? And then the Casper Schmeichel in goal, who's still there now, who's a fantastic leader. And you see how vocal he is, And
Yeah.
then you look at the Leicester team now, like, it's so good. They play good football. Like, Harvey Barnes in there as well. And they have such a good team. And for yourself, then, if you break it into that first team as well, like, there's a lot of quality there, and they are a top team. And then Brendan Rodgers as well. Like, I think with what he's done with Leicester since he's come in, he's done a fantastic job, and you've seen what he's done at Liverpool and also at Celtic as well. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, the future is bright there, especially like there's a lot of young players there as well.
Yeah, 100%. Especially now we're moving into a brand new training complex, which is state of the art. It's going to be one of the best in Europe. It's going to attract the best talent, especially with how well the first team are doing. Um, and as you said, there's so many young players there. You have Harvey Barnes, you have Hamza Chowdhury, you have Luke Thomas, who played with me last year. And he doesn't look like he's put a foot wrong, and he's so solid. You have James Madison, Yuri Tillmans, he's still so young. You have Wesley Fofana after coming in
Yeah,
this
I
season.
love him. He's class.
Yeah, oh yeah, he is. But then you have, like you say, you have the young lads, and then you have the veterans of the side. As you mentioned, Casper, you have Johnny Evans, Christian Fuchs, Wes Morgan there as well, Jamie Vardy, Mark Albright, and so there's a great mixture
Great blend
in
of
the
youth
Leicester
experience there.
in
Yeah,
the squad, yeah, so that the older lads can pass on the like information that they have and experience they have to the younger lads, and the younger lads can push the older lads to perform for longer. So it's it's looking good for Leicester now at the minute, yeah.
and like in terms of like you're around obviously you've mentioned like the more experienced players like in the Leicester side, like do you ever like tell you any stories of like kind of the title winning season, and did they kind of pass on any of that knowledge to the younger players?
Um, they don't really speak about because you're on out in the training pitch, and you never sat with them. Obviously, this year now it's a bit different. We're nowhere near the first team because obviously they're COVID tested and they're
Yeah,
in their own little bubble. But last year, like you had the likes of Elan Jakubovic. Um, okay, yeah, he wasn't in the title winning season, but just passed on a little bit of knowledge of how his career went and stuff like that with Hull and stuff like that. And obviously this year now, Andy King was training with us there for a while, a club legend, and he was passing on little bits of information and like how everybody was around the club X amount of years ago and filling us in, like, asking him what his best memories on the pitch were and stuff like that, that way. So it's been good there that a few of the older lads can talk to you, and actually explain stuff to you and stuff like that, which is always good. So because you're always learning, like every day is a learning day. So it's always good to have them around that you can always ask questions and stuff like that.
yeah, 100%. Like in terms of like your football career as well, like do you have any kind of what are your aspirations kind of now? Like I know we're in a kind of weird time of COVID-19, and I suppose to make plans in football now is kind of you can't really do it. Do you know what I mean? You don't know if you're going to be if football is going to be cancelled next week. Do you know what I mean? With this whole kind of uncertain time we have. In terms of like is the first team kind of your one of your main goals? Is it one of your other main goals to kind of represent Ireland on the international stage? Like, what would be your kind of next aspirations in football?
Obviously, sure, you'd want to get into the first team and stuff like that. That's obviously your main goal. And what little Irish lad doesn't want to put on an Irish jersey? In that sense, like it's always I've never been able to put on the Irish jersey, and one day I hope to be able to stand out in the Aviva and listen to the national anthem and then play obviously for Ireland. But I'm just going to take it one step at a time at the minute, in the sense that go in every day, work hard, train hard, learn new things, and then see where it takes me, in the sense where if I play games and I impress, well then maybe I could go out on loan or I could move into the first team squad or whatnot. But as I said to you, I'm just going to take it one day at a time. I'm enjoying everything at the minute, being a footballer and stuff like that. So I'm just going to go with the flow and just concentrate on everything.
Absolutely. And like, look, I suppose it'd be great if just get to pull on that Ireland shirt, like hearing our own Naveen and the Irish fans. Hopefully, when that happens, it's a full capacity stadium, like you know what I mean, and the Irish fans are singing. Like that'd be something. It's an absolute dream.
Ah, yeah, but even if it happened in 2 months' time and it was COVID and nobody was in the stadium, it still doesn't make a difference because you represent your country. Um, so obviously it'd be nice to have your family and friends and stuff there, but as I said to you, there's no point in talking about the future when
Yeah.
because it's a few years down the line. I might as well concentrate on the here and now and do well for Leicester.
And like in terms of like any young kind of Irish player kind of looking to make that kind of next step in terms of looking to play for a Premier League club or make a move to England in terms of taking that chance, kind of what advice would you provide to any young player who has kind of an aspirations to move to England?
Um, it's, it's a hard one. Because obviously I came over when I was 19, and a lot of lads are being forced to go over at 16 for trials, and maybe they're not ready, and sometimes they get signed and then get brought back home, get released when they're 18, stuff like that. Um, my advice is just be enjoy it wherever you play and whatever you do in life. It would just be enjoy whatever you're doing, whether that be playing football, playing GA, like sweeping the road. Enjoy what you're doing. Um, like there's different lads cope with different ways, and I was fortunate enough to come over here, not thinking that I was ever going to come over here and stuff like that. So my advice, as I said to you, would just be enjoy the moment. Don't dwell on the moment too much. Just live it, and that's it.
I think I lost Dara there, lads. I think are
Oh,
you
did
still
you?
there, Dara?
I am, yeah.
Yeah, I think I just lost you. I think there was a spike in my internet connection. It all seems the little circle just spinning around kind of that time. Was I gone off the screen? Was I?
You were frozen there for a minute, yeah. I was wondering why you were so quiet.
Oh, stop it. Normally you can't shut me up on the show. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, like look, it's been an absolute pleasure, Dara, having you on. And in terms of this, I do wish you, the absolute best of luck, and with everything with Leicester City, and hopefully, and we see on in the first team soon, and we see on the telly, with the Premier League in the King Power Stadium. And look, if you score a header against Man United, I really do hope you
There'll be
celebrate
no
yourself.
hard feelings, yeah, yeah,
No,
yeah,
no
yeah.
hard feelings.
Yeah.
Do send me your regards when that happens. You know what I mean? Because I'll probably be on a podcast here, and I'll be like, "Yeah, lads, I just had Darragh here in the podcast there about 4 or 5 months ago there, and yeah, he's after knocking us out now. And we don't have top four, but like, yeah, fair play to him."
That would be the dream, all right, yeah.
Well, look, Darragh, thanks very much for coming on this evening. It's been a great chat, and I really do appreciate yourself coming on, giving me and giving us the time and talk to you about your footballer career. And look, and I do wish you all the best.
Thanks very much for having me on, Keane. Thank you.
Cheers. Thanks very much.
Cheers. Bye bye.